Welcome back to the channel, guys. On today's video, we are talking all about crankbaits. We are going to crankbait fish only, and we're gonna see what we can get on. You saw from the jerkbait video, it's not just smallmouth bass. We caught 2 catfish on a freaking jerkbait, which is crazy to me, but they're out there chasing shad, they're out there chasing minnows too, so hey, you never know what you're gonna get, and I would expect the same thing out of this crankbait right here. So we're gonna be using these KVD Strike King 1.5 crankbaits, and these right here do not have internal rattles. All you can hear is, those are just the hooks rattling, but it's a square bill crankbait. We're gonna be fishing that for 3 to 5 foot of water. We're also gonna be throwing a, let's see, that's more of a deep diving crankbait. We're gonna be throwing that for around, 5 to 8 foot, 10 foot range. And I do have all of these on fluorocarbon line attached to braid. Okay, so I know a lot of people don't like to use braid for crankbaits. Well, when we're out here targeting smallmouth, I am using the same rods that I use for all smallmouth fishing. So I'm not gonna change it up. And plus, the bend in this rod and the medium power allows for the bend in the rod to take some of the force out when you set the hook. Okay, so you're not gonna be ripping the hooks out of these fish's mouths like if you had a heavy power rod or a medium heavy power rod and go to set the hook real hard with braid. Then you would probably rip it right out of the fish's mouth, but not with this medium power rod. You're gonna be just fine, and you don't have to switch things up. You can literally use the same equipment that you're using with Ned rigs, the tubes, anything else like that, Texas rigs. You can still use braid fluorocarbon leader. Okay, and so it is 20-pound braid with a 10-pound fluorocarbon leader. That's what I'm using. And guys, it works perfect. I used it on that 7-pound catfish and it handled it just fine. So you're gonna be okay pulling just about any type of bass in. All right, so if you like this type of stuff, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, as we're gonna get into this video right now. There we go. First smallie right there, guys. All right, right here. It's just a little one, but hey, you get his lip ripped, guys. I don't know if you can tell. There she is. All right, crushed a little KVD 1.5. This is a great square bill crankbait if you don't use them. Definitely check these out. They're a little bit more pricey, but they're still a budget option. They're definitely not as expensive as a lot of square bill crankbaits. So what I'm casting over right now, this is just like a rock bed. All down through here, it's just jagged rocks. It's a really nice rock bed. It's got some little current breaks in it, so the smallies can definitely, get down in between the rocks there and hide and wait for a bait to come by. And all I'm doing is with this 1.5, and it only dives about 3 to 5 feet. So it's going across those rocks, just beating around, bumping, and that's really what's going to target a reaction strike. I'll be reeling, for the most part, I'm just reeling a consistent retrieve, but every now and then I'll either pop the rod just a little, or I'll be reeling and I'll just pause, and that lets the bait float back up to the top. Yep, and I just feel those little bumps. It's just a very erratic action going through the water, just beating and a banging on those rocks. And we're not necessarily specifically targeting smallmouth, but since this river primarily has smallmouth, that's probably what we're gonna end up catching. But I am throwing up towards the banks. I'm fishing out of the middle of here, so we're targeting both large and smallmouth bass. Now, it did rain yesterday, so there's a little bit more water in the river than normal. Looks like it's gonna rain today, even though they're not calling for it. The river is still clear as a bell, even though we got hung up on a even though it rained. Usually it gets all muddy. All right, so another key to fishing a crankbait is to get it up in that cover. So we have a big log jam right up here, and I threw it right in there. I mean, probably you got large and smallmouth bass just all over this thing. You know, those largemouth will tuck right up in that tree. So if that tree has limbs, I'm just bumping it off those limbs. So you might have heard me talk about this before, but when I'm fishing any type of bait like this that imitates a bait fish or shad or anything like that, a minnow, I'm always gonna fish it naturally. And what that means is I'm never gonna bring it up the current. I'm always gonna fish it down the current. So right now I have the boat nose up into the current, and I'm just casting off the front here, pulling it back down the current. Because normally bait fish, they don't swim back up the current. I mean, there are some exceptions, but a good rule of thumb here is to never pull it back up current, or the most you want to do is maybe completely sideways to the river, so a 90-degree perpendicular angle, or maybe a 45-degree angle. Maybe we can get us some catfish today. That's crazy. I never thought using a jerk bait I'd catch 2 catfish. There we go. Coming right at us. Just a little thing. Boop. Turn this trolling motor off. All right. Number 2 on the old crankbait. Not catching as many as I thought we would, but hey, the weather's been kind of crazy. And yeah, gotta use some excuse, right? Yeah, we're still using the Sexy Shad color, KVD 1.5. There we go. Pretty nice one, I think. Woo. All right, guys, little one, but hey, we're gonna get back at it and see if we can get that bigger one. There we go. It's a big stick. Look, crankbaits even catch sticks. That is crazy. That is crazy. So I'm bringing this right by this root ball right now. And if I think it's gonna hit on one of these limbs or something, and it might get snagged up, I'll just let it float back up to the top. Because most crankbaits float, and it makes it really easy to not get hung up. My bait's messed up. There we go. There we go. This might be a decent one. Pretty good one. Yeah, just a little guy. He hammered it though. I felt it bump off of a little twig or something in the water, and then he just smacked it. Little crankbait action. And guys, with these square bills, You know, they'll typically run anywhere from 3 to 5 feet deep, but if you want it to run a little bit deeper or shallower, whatever, I use my rod tip to judge that. Okay, so if I want it to run higher in the water column, I'm gonna raise the rod tip up and retrieve it that way. If I want it to run and really hit the bottom, or if I feel it not hitting the bottom, I can just move the rod tip down and that'll kind of fix that. Because the crankbait I'm using right now is just an H2O Express. It's the Academy brand crankbait. And it's not bad. It's really not. I found that most of their baits are very similar to that of, you know, Strike King or anything else. H2O Express is really good about having a ton of colors to choose from. And they just really have more offering than just about anything else. Fish hit it, I seen it. Like sideswiped it then. Yeah, I do have a fish. Just a little one. Guys, I couldn't even tell I had it. Little rock bass. Bitty rock. These things fight even harder than smallies most of the time. Little rock bass. There we go. That's a largemouth. Largemouth. Where have you been all year? All right. Largemouth action there. All right, let's get this little guy back in the water. That is like one of the first largemouths I've caught in a long time. At least a month, I would say. Get this dude back in the water. All right, let's see if we can get another largemouth. It kind of makes sense. We're in an area that doesn't have as much current as on down where the smallmouth usually are. And this is also where I caught those catfish on the jerkbait. So guys, I guess if you get anything from this video, it's if you're using any type of crankbait, square bill, deep diving crankbait, whatever, the biggest key to it is actually getting that bill down in the rocks, down in whatever. If you're fishing on a lake, which I know I don't do any lake fishing really, if you find an area that has a lot of riprap or any little rock ledges or anything, bumping those crankbaits off of that is really going to be effective for you. And then in our case, such as a river, you know, I'm bumping it off the rock, I'm bumping it off the sand. Anything that's making a disturbance in the water is really going to be key. So I don't really get too technical with it. I really just cast it out and I'm just retrieving it back in. You can do it just a straight retrieve. Sometimes I'll pause it, sometimes I'll reel a little bit faster. Varying those retrieves are going to be key as well. But you don't have to do it, guys. Keep it simple, keep it blue collar, and you're going to be effective with it, I promise. So one cool thing about a crankbait is, you know, if you are going through a lot of different limbs or you're going through a lot of different rocks or structure, you know, if you just keep reeling it, most of the time it's going to deflect off that cover and those hooks aren't going to get caught on anything. The bill, when that bait is going through the water, it's going like this. So that bill is actually protecting those hooks from getting caught on anything. But then again, you know, it's going to get hooked up from time to time. That's just the nature of it. But a lot of times if you just reel through it, you're going to get unstuck or not even get stuck at all. You know, I switched over to this H2O lure from Academy just to show you that you don't have to spend a lot of money on lures to actually go out and catch fish. I think this one was only like $250, maybe a little bit more. But compared to Strike King and some of the other ones, you know, you're gonna save at least $3 or $4. And that's per lure. All right, guys, this last clip right here is just me at the very end of the trip. I pulled out a Bitsy Bug jig and caught a little one on the new Lose Laser TXS rod. And guys, that's all we have for today. If you guys like this video, please leave a like. Also, subscribe to the channel if you're new. Guys, we are almost at 1,000 subscribers. I can't believe we're almost there. And guys, really, really appreciate all your help and support with getting the channel to where it is today. Guys, turn on that notification bell if you haven't already so you can see more videos like this. And guys, thanks for keeping it blue collar. And until next time.